Hey everyone, welcome to our Real Estate Mavericks webinar today on liability limiters for realtors. That's right, liability limiters for realtors. These are like 5 plus a bonus. I always try to give more than expected. These are 5 CYA strategies that you may not be thinking about that can help you not have a problem with a guy like me. Back when I was practicing law, you did not want me to be suing you over some type of misrepresentation or something you did wrong or something you didn't do that you could have done that would have gotten you off the hook when I snagged you on the hook back in the days that I was practicing law. Actually, I was not going after realtors. I just didn't have the stomach to do that because I've done real estate all my life. So let's pop on the screen share here and find our whatchamacallit. There we go. So there's our slides. We're going to pop on and off slides today because I have some fun stories for you. You know how much I love to tell stories. So this is liability limiters for realtors, and let's pop right to it. So the first one is to secretly record conversations when it's appropriate. Secretly record conversations. And just a minute, I'm getting instructions from Roseanne here. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Okay, thank you. You know, there's no doubt who the real boss is, and it's not the Real Estate Maverick. It's the Real Estate Maverick's wife over here. So Roseanne wanted me to remind you of what she thought of when we were outlining this webinar, and that is, it's okay to be Maverick, but it's awesome. In fact, it's awesome to be Maverick. Okay, I'm just, what, you want to just come over and do the webinar? No, you're not doing that. But I actually want to interview her for one of the things on the webinar. We're going to, yeah, all right, I really would like to do that, though. It's such a good story. It would go so much better coming from you. In any case, it's okay. It's awesome to be Maverick. But the bottom line is, if you're going to be Maverick, you need to watch your P's and Q's. Being Maverick doesn't mean being mavericky, being loose as a goose when it comes to protecting your butt. And that's what this is all about. Number one, I teach you to be Maverick. I teach you to not just, I don't actually teach you to walk the edge. What I teach you to do is push the edge, change the edge, put the edge in a different place. And when you're repositioning the edge, when you're getting people to think different ways and have different perspectives and change their belief patterns, change the way realtors look at real estate. Because I think right now that most real estate agents are looking at real estate the wrong way. I think they're asking the wrong questions. I think they're trying to hold the line on a commission that is evaporating right beneath their feet, when what they should be doing is figuring out a way to charge less and earn more, to be smart, not be discount, but be smart. But when you do that, people are going to shoot at you. Other realtors, quite frankly, are going to not be happy about change. Most people don't like it. So you need to protect you need to CYA yourself, particularly when you're a Maverick, even more than when you're not. And everybody who's been a leader, every leader in this country, politically, business-wise, has always known that. So that's what this webinar is all about. So the first thing is secretly record conversations, and there are downloadable apps that make it easy. Whoops. So let me flop off of here and actually want to show you. Before I do that, I'm just going to stop the share and let me talk to you about the rules with respect to recording conversations. So let's talk phone conversations. You can also talk in-person conversations, and it is perfectly legal in most states to record conversations without telling the other person. There are what's known as two-party consent and one-party consent states. Only 12 states, I believe it's 12 states, have two-party consent rules. And that means that you have to have the permission of the other person before you record the conversation. And you've heard, like, when you call into American Express and you might be talking, I've been a Black Card member at American Express for like ever. In fact, I couldn't believe it. I was talking to them the other day, booking a trip, and they reminded me, I looked at my card, I've been an Amex member since 1976. You don't even want to add that up. 86, 96, 2006, 2000. I mean, that's like 40 years. Like, I must have gotten that card when I was like 6 years old. In any case, they have this recording. They say, you know, this conversation may be recorded for quality purposes. Yeah, right. These conversations with all these companies are being recorded for CYA them. Now, the reason they have that notice on there is because they're doing this nationally, and there are 12 states that require that you give notice. And actually, they'll even ask you sometimes if it's important that is it okay to record this conversation. So bottom line is you can just Google it. I actually have a webinar when I talk about the different states and how to do this, but you can Google it and just Google 12 states where you need two-party consent to record conversations, and they'll come right up. Other than that, if you're in any of the 48 other states, you can record conversations without the other person's permission. Now, why is that important? I'm not trying to teach you a bad thing or a wrong thing, but let me tell you a story. We had a situation several years ago where one of the agents who worked with us, well, yeah, I mean, bottom line is it was Roseanne. So, okay, so let's go ahead. She said, fine, go ahead and tell her. She sold a home. I know she's going to coach me through this story, so I'm not going to get this right. She sold a home to some amazing people who we really care about deeply. And they actually bought it for their son and daughter-in-law, a daughter-in-law pregnant, about to have a baby. And so they bought the home. They closed on the home, did all the normal due diligence. We did all the normal due diligence. They got the SPUDs. We looked over the SPUDs. That's the seller property disclosure form here in Arizona. You all have them in different states. And everything was fine, closed the deal. Turns out then the husband walks out into the yard shortly after they close on the home, and there's a hypodermic needle in the yard. I'm not kidding you. There's a hypodermic needle in the car and some other drug paraphernalia. Well, you know, he thinks and this is a very nice community. I mean, this is a $1 million plus home. So this is a very nice community. So he thinks that is so weird, but then, you know, really doesn't think a lot more about it until he finds it again. He finds the same kind of stuff like a couple of days later. And yes, and I'm sorry, what, sweetie? What middle? It was, there was an event where there's a middle, so what came up is then in the middle of the night they discovered there was some drug overdose situation, ambulances on the street, all this stuff, drug overdose, just like a couple nights later. And so this gets him wondering what's going on at this one house. And it turns out, here's the bottom line. It turns out that this house just a few doors down is a drug rehabilitation home. Where people who have drug problems go privately to get rehabilitated, and that actually was allowed by with a special variance was allowed in this very upscale community. But this is not where he wanted to be living with his wife pregnant to have this child. I mean, this was just like, are you kidding me? I bought this home 2 doors down from where there are a number of people who, and I feel for them, you know, the challenges that those people were having with drugs, but this is just not where he wanted to live, and it was never disclosed. So, oh my gosh, I mean, attorneys, all this disclosure, I mean, the home clearly was worth a couple $100,000 less by virtue of the fact that there was this drug rehabilitation home 2 doors away. So that certainly diminished value, not to mention the fact they didn't want to live there. Well, how does recording conversations come into the story? Well, there was nothing like this on the seller property disclosure form. And so we get the agent on the line, the other agent on the line, and say, well, why was this not disclosed? Because initially they said to us, they didn't know. The seller said he didn't know anything about that. Now, this is ridiculous. How do you live there and not know anything about this? But that's what he said. I mean, a ridiculous statement. I didn't know, didn't put it on the disclosure. But in a conversation that was recorded with the other agent, they said, well, actually, they did know. And they had a conversation with the seller, and that they advised the seller that it was not necessary and that they shouldn't disclose it on the seller property disclosure form. They should not disclose it. Don't put it on there because this was a protected class and it's not required to disclose a protected class on the disclosure form. Well, we got that recorded. And so the bottom line is case over. He absolutely knew and was told by the realtor not to disclose this, that he didn't have to, that he'd never get the home sold for this amount of money for what he wanted if he disclosed it, which was absolutely true. Well, the bottom line is that the seller disclosure form has nothing to do with protected class. If there's something, the question that was asked plain and simply is, do you have any knowledge of anything at all that could detrimentally affect the value of the home. And the answer that was put down there was a great big no. And the fact is that he did, the seller did. And so we got that case all taken care of and resolved. But my point to you, it was the big smoking gun was the fact that we had the recording of the realtor admitting that the seller not only knew, that the seller purposely didn't put it down on the form. So that is a situation where recording a conversation paid off really big. I'd like to show you there are a number of ways to do it to help you out here. So I'm going to go back to screen share, and this is something that I have for you here. You can go into, if you are on an iPhone, this happens to be a downloadable app where you can record any phone call, simple and easy to use, share your recordings. You can even send them to people. This is a very cool thing to use. And you'll just want to check to see if you're in a state that requires consent or not. And if it doesn't, then you can record conversations when you feel like. Now, in that case, it wasn't really a matter of protecting CYA. It was really more a matter of making the case. And it really was protecting our clients. But in a lot of cases, you'll just want to have conversations recorded, probably thinking that it'll never come up, that you'll never really need the recording, but just to CYA you when you want to make sure that the person who you're talking with remembers the conversation if it ever comes up the same way you did. So that is strategy number one. We're going to go off there, and now we'll go back and go to the slideshow, and here we go with strategy number two, and that is CYA emails. Well, ever since email came into existence, and prior to that with letters, because I suppose I'm an attorney, I have been meticulous about covering myself and my clients. And by covering, I mean making sure that what was said, and I'm going to give you a good story here, that what was said was tracked so that nobody could say we said something different than we did. That's number one. Or number two, that no one could say that we didn't say something we had said. So it's really important whenever you feel like, it's really important that later on, it may be important that there's no doubt I said this or I said this a certain way. And, again, the recording conversation thing can take care of it, but you can't do that all the time. You don't even think about that all the time. So just cover it, and you don't even want to do that all the time. That's for the smoking gun kind of situations where this is likely to be an important conversation. The CY email thing, here's a great example. I had a client a while back who applied for a loan, a year or two ago with one of our agents, and the loan officer took the loan application, and the client had multiple businesses and lots of things going on, and had several sources of income. And the loan officer simply said, all we need to put on the loan application are the things that are necessary, true and accurate things, but the things that are necessary to get you qualified for the loan. It is not necessary to fully disclose the rest of your financial picture. Now, wasn't saying hold back debts, hidden debts, but just the idea that you have a lot of other things going on, a lot of scenarios, a lot of sources of income, different bank accounts, different things, all kinds of stuff. You have a complex financial picture, and all that's really necessary is just to put down what is precisely needed so that your ratios are such so that you'll qualify for the loan. Now, in a situation like that, I think it is critical, and we advise the client to do this. I coach the agent to advise the client to do this, to send an email to the loan officer that's very specific, that basically says, I'm filled out the loan application accurately, but you have assured me that the lender guidelines are such that it's not necessary to provide the rest of my financial picture, that I filled out all these things, but that I have other businesses, other things, other stuff going on, lots of stuff that's not down here, and that I am relying on you as my mortgage lender to guide me correctly to make sure this application is filled out in conformity with the law and the lender's standards, and you've made the lender aware of this situation. Well, I don't know whether the mortgage broker had or not, the ultimate lender, but the bottom line is that was a nice nothing's ever come of that, but it was a nice CYA email. It's just an example of when you want to have a CYA email. I think there are a lot of circumstances just in normal list and selling homes where you are CYAing yourself with what you're telling sellers, what you're telling buyers, that kind of thing. It only takes a few minutes. And I have a separate CYA email file, actually, and I advise realtors to do this in my coaching. I did a Voxer on it once, and maybe I'll do another one of my daily audios, where you should actually have a file, and every time you send an email where you think it's important, it might come up a year or 2 or 5 years later. I actually advise my agents to have a file, like with Google, with any email thing, you can have files where you put various types of emails to file all your CYA emails. You'll file them. I actually would file in 2 places: the normal place you'd find them, plus also a copy into the CYA email file. So that is strategy number 2, CYA emails and a CYA email file. Strategy number 3, great story here, is to check out the buyers. Now, so you have buyers and sellers, obviously. You have home buyers and home sellers. So with home sellers, when you represent a buyer and the buyer's buying the home, I don't think it's critically important to know much about the sellers. You're really buying the home, and once the buyers, here's the thing, once the buyers sign a contract on a home, generally for some period of time, the sellers are tied up. They're handcuffed. I think this is one of the unfair, unbalanced aspects of the way real estate is contracted today, that the buyers have multiple escape clauses. They have an inspection clause, they have a loan contingency clause, they may have other clauses, and the sellers are handcuffed. Now, I get the logic of it. If the buyers are going to spend money on an appraisal, they're going to spend money on due diligence, that they should be protected, and that the sellers can't bail out and sell at a higher price to someone else. I've always felt, however, that if that period of time is extensive, beyond a very short period of time, that this buyer should have to pay for that privilege. That is, at some point, maybe after 15 or 20 or 25 days, if they want an extended closing and there are still contingencies in place, that some small part of the earnest money then becomes non-refundable for the seller holding the home off the market. That's not the point, though. Just throwing that out. The point is that as a seller, though, because you're so reliant on the buyers, on the credibility of the buyers, on who the buyers are, I think it's super smart for you as agents, when you represent sellers, to check out buyers. Let me give you a great example. So we had some clients who sold to some buyers, and it was a very tough negotiation. And the buyers actually got an attorney, and the contract had all kinds of provisions. It was just not the normal boilerplate fill in the blank kind of a deal. And what happened is then we check on these purchasers. We do some Googling, we check court records, etc. These purchasers, you cannot even believe the background of these purchasers. I mean, fired twice from his job, sued, all kinds of bad stuff, lawsuits. What all did we? Harassing witnesses. Yeah. Oh yeah, multiple attorneys who pulled out because he didn't pay fees. This was just a person who was trouble. Oh yeah, his own sister sued him. Okay, his own sister sued him. So I mean, this is a person. This changes the whole complexion of a deal. And when you're presenting offers to sellers, I think one of the things that listing agents don't do as much as they should is to really find out who these buyers are. Because a seller's decision to accept a contract, if I'm a seller, it's going to really have a lot to do, not just with the price and not just with the terms, but who these people are. Are these people likely to pull? Do they have a record of pulling? Do they have a record of lawsuits? Do they have a record of aggravating sellers? Do they just have a bad record? And so that's something I highly advise, pretty simple. But before you present offers, you always have the buyer's name right in the offer. Before you present offers, one of the things in getting prepared is to check out those buyers, do the best you can so that you can give your sellers a picture of who they are. That is strategy number 3. Strategy number 4, a task and date checklist. So let me find for you here. Roseanne has the best one, as you might guess, in my view, in the world. So let me find it here. Go to screen share. And well, maybe it's a good one. She says, well, maybe not the best one in the world, but okay, this is my Evernote. And I actually copied this in. So this is just something, we can send you this form if you want to look at it. Jen, just email Jen at Real Estate Mavericks, but let me see if I can get it here. So I think you can see it. So this is the sale pending. This is Roseanne's checklist that she uses here. The ones for buyers, this is the buyer doc. So this has got the dates in it, the various dates, the various checklists, things she needs to do. She just goes through this, and you can see this one up here is quite long. This is the buyer one. It just goes on and on. I'm cursoring to the seller one, sorry, but now whatever. Oh, here it is. I can just do this. So this is you can see this is her buyer form. And the good news with me, all the years that Roseanne and I worked together, is she would do all this stuff. So all I had to do is get people to say yes. My job was to get people to say yes. There's my little outline today. My job was to get people to say yes, and Roseanne's job was to make everything else work. Right, hon? Exactly. So her job was to make everything else work out. So that's her checklist on that. And then there's also a similar one down here. I won't bore you with it. And this is for the seller, all the checklist and things. So if any of you guys would like that, I've asked Roseanne's permission. Roseanne, can we freely give that out to people without liability? It's whatever. Now I ask, right? Like we're going to say no at this point. Okay, so there we go with that. So let me go back to the screen share here. So we've got that, and where are our slides? Where are our slides? There are our slides. So here we go. To remind me of our last one, so the task and date checklist. By the way, attorneys live by this. Back when I was practicing law, I mean, you just keep meticulous records. I mean, you do not. It is major liability as an attorney, I will tell you, to miss a date for a client, because the courts are not real kindly to that. So if you miss a motion submission date or a reply date to any kind of a suit, lawsuit, motion, whatever, you end up losing because of it. I mean, major league problems. So as an attorney, you learn how important these kind of things are. And as realtors, I think you should also do the same. And I'm sure you all do. Okay, physical security. Well, Roseanne, are you gonna, do I have to tell this story, or I do? So, all right, well, correct me if I don't get this exactly right. So keep your phone with you when showing homes, 911 on speed dial, primarily for women, but also for skinny guys like me, okay, skinny guys like me who can easily get beaten up. So Roseanne, I asked Roseanne to go out, this is a few years ago, on to get a listing signed up. Person had said yes to listing their home, so she goes out to get it signed up. And she gets to the house, and it's like really weird. The guy is acting really weird. What was he doing again, hon? Just come here and no, I promise nobody can see you if you're just right here. So tell this story. This is such a good story. You're going to tell it so much better than me.
About every 10 feet in the house, on the floor, was a can of Raid.
Okay, yeah, forgot. The Raid, bug spray, okay.
And very sparsely furnished home, which I noticed the Raid. That was a little strange, but okay. So then he proceeds to show me through the home, and I notice in the kitchen and on the bathroom counters, there are boxes of surgical gloves. I think, that's interesting. Well, as we go through the home, it gets weirder and weirder, and I am starting to feel very uncomfortable. So he takes me into the master, and when we walk into the closet, there's not one hanger or one piece of clothing, but there is a computer system that NASA would be envious of. Well, I am thinking something is very wrong here. This is very weird. So I fortunately had my cell phone in my pocket and said, oops, excuse me, my phone's ringing. And it's on vibrate. I picked it up and acted like I was reading a text and said, would you please excuse me? I need to return this immediately. And I hightailed it out of there. I called Greg and said, I think I'm about to be murdered. This is very scary.
And Greg said, get back in there and get the listing. Don't worry about it, just get the listing.
So I did go back in, but I said, gosh, please excuse me. I've got to take care of something right away. could we please get this signed, and I'll come back another time and look at the house.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But
And
I was really glad I had not left my phone in my purse on the counter,
right.
or you know, sitting somewhere else, because that gave me the perfect out. And if you were in a situation where you really felt you were in danger, if you had your 911 people, your spouse, your coworker, whoever, on speed dial, you could easily hit 1, you know, or the number, and send, and at least somebody would hear what was going on.
Or your real estate coach.
That's
Call
right.
me, hey coach, I'm in danger.
And be able to save you.
Yeah. And so it's funny because, thanks, son. I mentioned to Roseanne, we were talking about this last night, and I said, you know, we have this home in Wyoming where we go in the summer. I work from in the summer, and there's bears up there. I've seen bears many times on the trails, and I said, you know, I've just got the better solution. Why doesn't everybody just carry bear spray in their purse? And so she didn't like that idea, but I thought that'd be a pretty good idea. I mean, who's gonna fight the bear spray, right? Okay, so that's physical security, and this last one's a bonus. This is interesting. This is what I call prescription protection for open houses. Tell sellers to put away prescription drugs. Had a situation with an agent I was coaching, and I've never had it happen to me, but they held an open house, and they had always, you know, commonly we warn sellers when we're holding open houses to put valuables away. Of course, that's just normal. But I had never really thought, honestly, in past years, to warn sellers to hide or lock up prescriptions. Well, the bottom line was that had an agent I was coaching, held an open house, and all of the, when the sellers, the agent didn't know anything, but when the sellers got back, the agent left, they called the agent. They were irate. They were absolutely irate because all their they had a number of prescriptions. Some of it was the kind of drugs that you, yeah, in a medicine cabinet, but the kind of drugs that anybody would want. I don't know what all these, you know, what are some of the things that people go for these days? You know, oxycodone and stuff like that. They just had some of, and it was all cleaned out. All their prescriptions were taken. I mean, they were major league irate, and they actually threatened, didn't do it. They threatened the realtor. And this is an agent who actually worked for me. I was coaching him, but they worked for me at the time. They threatened the realtor with a lawsuit, basically saying that you should have told us, you should have warned us that we should remove all of our prescription drugs, et cetera. It's something we wouldn't think about. So that's why I bring that up as a bonus today, because I don't know, those of you when you're holding open houses, if you think to warn sellers of that, but if you don't, you absolutely should. Well, if you would like links to any of our webinars, all the cool stuff we have, we think it's pretty cool. You can simply email jen@realestatemaveriks.com. I'm going to tell you, by the way, don't leave, because what's coming up next week, you're going to love this, what I'm going to do next week. And if you like this webinar, I'd love a recommendation on LinkedIn. I'm the most recommended trainer on LinkedIn. That's really thanks to you guys. Thanks to you guys. You just go in under Real Estate Mavericks and write something nice about me. And if you've already left me a recommendation at Mavericks, I'd love one under 990 Sales. That's our consumer brand. I have my Real Estate Mavericks training, and then the consumer brand is what I train my agents, so that it's really a business in a box. It's not just coaching and training. We have the consumer brand that you can see if you want to look at it. If you haven't seen our consumer brand, that is the front face of what our agents do. It's at 990sales.com. So I have 990 Sales there. You could leave me a recommendation under there. That would sure be appreciated. It's Greg Hague on LinkedIn. And if you're interested in what we do, I'm going to talk to you about next week. Just email coach@realestatemaveriks.com. And it's really, for those of you that are in our coaching, and most of you just follow me on the webinar, so you know what we do, but it's really not traditional coaching. I don't coach traditional real estate anymore. I did for many years. How to do better, you know, in a normal context on a listing appointment. I have this whole sequence, all these various strategies. I don't do a lot of that anymore, because I really believe that coaching traditional real estate, coaching you to be better at the way real estate has been done, is like coaching a taxi driver to drive his or her taxi better and to keep it cleaner, when it's only going to be a matter of time before the entire taxi business is out of business because of Uber. And I honestly believe that that's what I'd be doing if I were just doing normal coaching. I'd be making you a better taxi driver when there's not going to be any business for taxi drivers in the years ahead. So I coach an entirely different model. And if you're interested in the agent perspective on that, the 990 Sales website is the consumer perspective. If you're interested in the agent perspective on what I coach, then just email coach@realestatemaveriks.com. And the whole system is designed with a very specific process. It's a very specific process that after 90 days, you will get 1 out of every 5 listings in whatever demographic you're marketing to. It's that simple. You will take 1 out of every 5. So if you're taking marketing to 1,000 homes, you figure a 6% turnover. That means 60 homes a year, or 5 homes are listed a month. If you do follow this 90-day process, every month after that, you will take for sure at least 1 of those listings. And the cost of doing it is $300 a month. That's what it costs in marketing in order to make that happen. So you're essentially buying listings for $300. It's just ABC. We provide the materials, we provide the website for you, we provide everything. It's just a business in a box. So I just wanted to mention coaching's very different. And next week, in next week's webinar, I am going to run through all of those steps. I'm going to do that. The agents who pay me for this system, I believe it's an extraordinary value. And all of you are listening. Many of you are my existing coaching students out there now, and you're in this system. And I just received a text yesterday, by the way, that one of the agents in our coaching, Adam Ferguson on the East Coast, I think it was Jen, and I know, Jen, you're on the line. I think Adam, I say wait 3 months before to expect a response. I think Adam has been marketing this a matter of weeks based on the text I saw from Jen. And Jen, I think you said that he'd already gotten 3 or 4 calls. And I know he's out on a listing appointment either yesterday or today, and he was out on one a couple of days ago. So don't expect that. It's just like it happens. Sometimes it's just like amazing. And I know another one of our agents in Charlotte emailed me the other day that they, Todd McKenna, and he got his first 990 listing, and it turns out the people are just what we want to happen. The sellers are looking to buy, I think, a $700,000 home from him. So he's going to make 20, 25 grand there. And then they referred their parents to him who are looking for an investment property anywhere between 600,000 and 4 million. And that's the whole idea, is to basically take the list side and have it a program that people can't say no to because it saves them so much money, such a compelling message that motivates us to work harder so that we actually don't just collect listings, but work on selling those listings to earn that 2.5%, 3% commission, either on our listings or selling other ones. And so I won't get into it now, but next week, I'm going to go through the basics of that, even for those of you who are not into our particular business, who aren't doing 990, who haven't bought into my coaching and this whole thing. Simply, I want you to see that. I'll tell you why, because you follow me in the webinars. And if you go out and do something different and just change the numbers, I'm okay with that. It's not a big deal. I don't want people paying me for concept. I mean, there's the concept. I want to be paid because we make it easy for you to implement the concept and give you the specific coaching that'll move you along more quickly and help you profit at a higher level. I don't want to keep this a secret from those of you who can't afford to be in our system, because I know many of you can't. I don't want to keep this a system, so I keep this a secret from you, how in basic you can go out and do it your own on a small scale. What's interesting is you can just scale this up with us, you know, with yourself. With doing this process, every 1,000, you can pick 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. You just pick the number of what you can afford at $300 a month, and you just pick, that's going to be the number of listings you'll get. So if you can afford $1,500 a month to hit 5,000 homes based on the process we set up, then you're going to end up getting 5 listings a month. It's that simple. And Roseanne, just I've got this, I don't know if you know, here, I'll go off screen share. Why am I even doing this with screen share so you can see me here or there? It's Maverick. So I've got this, and then I'll answer any questions. I've got this amazing golden doodle. Come on over here, Tanner. He is, I can't lift him up because I'm afraid I'll hurt him here, but he is the most gorgeous dog. And in any case, I'm sorry. I love my dog, so he's like amazing. So he's wanting to be petted right now. Okay, you guys, so I am going to end the webinar here and then answer questions. So I will end the webinar with a story that I've told often, but I have to tell it again. I just think it's that important, and that is, you've heard it from me, and but it's when I had a situation come up the other day where an agent who is considering wants to get into our training, and her broker was giving her resistance, basically saying, I don't want you to promote something less than 1 or 2%. I don't want you to be perceived as a discount realtor. And I mean, I have to tell you this story because I hear this time and time again, and I do not even get this, what this is about. I mean, look at what's happening in real estate. I mean, if you possibly think 3 years from now that list commissions are going to be, do you understand what's happened? I'm sure you've read Inman News that the articles where list commissions have dropped from the high fives, from 7% to 6% to the high fives, and now they're predicted average to go into the fours, and they're predicted to go down below 1% in the next 3 years. I want you to understand that. List side commissions are predicted to go below 1%. All I'm trying to do is teach you how to monetize a low list side commission and get ahead of the curve. I mean, I don't understand brokers. I know what it is with brokers. They're afraid. A broker's thing is, I want to recruit more agents. And they're afraid that if they allow you to do something that's going to work for you, that is clearly the future of real estate, that's going to cause them to not be able to recruit more agents who don't see it and don't like it. And that's not right. That's not fair. That is not what brokers should be doing. They should be helping you list and sell more and not worried about how many bodies they can get in the door. And I'm going to say that again. They need to work on helping you list and sell more, to think ahead, to see where the curve's going. If they don't agree with me, then say they don't agree with me and talk about why they don't agree with me and why they think the business is going to be in some different place, and give you some creative strategies to do it, rather than just saying no. No, I don't want to be perceived as a discount realtor. Well, guess what? You think Amazon was worried about that? You think Uber was worried about that? That's just crap. I mean, that is not what this business is. What you should be thinking every morning is, when you wake up, is, how can I do a better job? Actually charge my clients less, do a better job for them, and earn more in the process. That's not discount real estate. That's smart real estate. And it just goes to the Wayne Gretzky story. Wayne, sitting there with his dad, I've told the story before, when he was a kid, Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest hockey players of all time, is sketching out this little thing when the hockey game, and his dad turns to him and says, what are you doing? And Wayne says, I'm trying to figure out where the puck is going, because all the players, everybody on the ice, they keep skating to where it is. They're all following it. And that's what I don't want you doing in real estate. I don't want you following the puck until you can't get ahead of it. If you follow it too long, and this commission, this opportunity you have, once 2-3 years from now, once the average commission, list side commission, is a 0.5% or 1%, you're not going to be able to get ahead of that curve. You're not going to be able to blow everybody out. You're not going to be able to disrupt. You're not going to be able to take the big market share in your market. You got to already have it. You got to get your brand built. Do it with me, do it on your own, but don't be blinded like all those hockey players were blinded out on the ice, following the puck around, trying to catch up to it. Do not play catch up your entire life. That's what 1.2 million realtors, less a few, 1.2 million realtors, less a few, that's what they're doing. Every day, they're just trying to hold the line, trying to play catch up, and they're spending, here's the thing that is so incredible. They're spending most of their time looking for business rather than doing business, because they don't have a business model that attracts business like a magnet. And so they say, I only want to list at 5 or 6%. How can I afford to only take in 2 or 3% on the list side? Well, I'll tell you how you can afford it, because you're taking in nothing now. You're just sitting there every day figuring out how you can get a listing. And day after day after day after day go by, and you don't. And then when you finally do get one every week, one every 2 weeks, what if I say one every week? The average agent out there gets 6 or 7 listings a year, maybe 8 or 9. I mean, that's it, one a week. I mean, you realize? I mean, they're spending 90% of their time not actually showing homes, not actually owning inventory, not actually listing homes. They're actually just looking for business. So I just want to leave you with this bit of advice. Please, whether it's with me or whether it's on your own, This is the big opportunity. I am serious. This is the big opportunity for you to forget what the traditional brokers are saying. Forget all this traditional mantra that 6% is some magic number. And if you're below 5 or 6%, you're an evil discounter. That is such stupid backward thinking. It is ridiculous. The bottom line is see where the puck is going, get ahead of the curve, disrupt your market. And I don't mean disrupt in a bad way, in a positive way, where sellers are going to love you. And you have a business model that draws people in like a magnet because you can provide a better service, a better home selling formula, charge them less so they can afford to sell for less and still net more, which means the homes will sell faster. Do it in the bread and butter price range where you're going to attract buyers like crazy and monetize that 2.5%, 3% buy side commission, which is staying very stable. It'll eventually go away. And when it does, you want to own the inventory, but you're going to be able to make a fortune on that for the next few years because that's going to hold because sellers do not want to have buyer agents not show their homes because most all homes sell through buyer agents. So that 2.5%, 3% is going to hold and it's going to be a real way to make a lot of money for a few years. And then as it starts to decrease, and it will, you want to be the one that has the inventory. If you have the inventory and have the brand, you'll be able to adjust, you'll be able to institute cost efficiencies, and you'll still be able to make a fortune. Okay, well guys, I'm going to end this webinar by simply saying, I salute the Maverick in you. Bye-bye, and recording off.